But as soon as Igor's brain gets into Frankenstein's monster's skull, he starts feeling more villainous to me. And I think that it makes the Wolfman more of a hero.
Cinematic fantastic.
Klaatu, Barada, Nikto.
I'll show you who I am and what I am.
Bitten by a werewolf and lives, becomes a werewolf himself.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Fantastic Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Weatherford.
And your other host, William Weatherford.
Get ready for opinions, dad jokes,
and bad jokes
as we watch and review sci-fi and fantasy films from the classics of yesteryear to the new favorites of today.
Hey everybody, welcome to the 42nd episode of Cinematic Fantastic.
Let's just call it Season 1, Episode 2 for those who are just like, wait, what? No, there's 40 episodes I have to catch up on? You don't have to catch up on much of anything, though. But, you know.
It's Season 3, Episode 2. Yeah, we'll use a different numbering scheme on that, but it's the second episode of Season 3. So if that kind of makes it where you're trying to collect them all, like those little cups from Burger King, then...
Yeah, or like... Pokemon
or Beanie Babies for you Gen Xers.
That was the funny thing back in an episode where you were talking about collecting stuff, and I edited in like the Pokemon theme rising up, and then you say Burger King cards, and then it just shuts off because most people say Pokemon, but no, you said Burger King. Speaking of which, you want to hear my 3 songs that live rent-free in my head, is what they usually say.
Rent-free right now, or have for a long time? What do you mean?
Well, just stuff listening to recently.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, actually, there's like 2 really good Pokemon themes. It's like, it's the Ruby game when you're first starting out that first little town.
Yeah.
Though I'd have to say the one that's been most is the lake theme from one of the later games.
Right.
Has been living in my head because it's just, it sounds like cascading water. And it's really nice. Second one would be, Shot Down by 39 Alps, I'm pretty sure. But it's a really good song, because it starts out like, the beginning of the Burnout. It just meets you at the title screen.
Right.
And, that was, like, one of the only,
the game
one of the first
Burnout.
game... Yes.
Okay.
One of the first games that I've ever, like, just sat, like, the theme song starts playing, and then I just have to sit down and listen to it, because it's just a nice song. It's, like, alt-rock, grunge, about, like, class system, I guess. Probably be playing in the background.
Well, you know, we could actually do a whole episode on video game music and which ones really slap. Like GoldenEye, like the pause theme is so like cool.
What about the one from Battletoads?
Oh, yeah. Some of those are just real, just pounding, you know, get you going. So
yeah, that one's just a little annoying after a while. You just leave it on the CRT and your parents get out of control. Third one, believe it or not, the Steven Universe theme song, because there's a nice arrangement in the Multiverses game, which you probably might have heard of.
I have heard of that. I do not like Steven Universe. It's not really my jam or my jam.
Yeah, but it has a really beautiful theme song that you wouldn't think it would have ordinarily, and the orchestral version that they use in the game is pretty good. Main thing with Multiverses, though, is they brought back Mark Hamill as the Joker. Believe it or not. He has returned.
They had him come out of retirement, because I know he said
yes, they did.
He retired the voice for after Arkham.
Because
Arkham
Knight. the Batman actor died. Yeah, but
yeah.
He does sound old though. He sounds a lot more gravelly.
Yeah,
is one thing. So they were like,
he sounds really gravelly after Arkham City, and then he's actually the character's spoiler alert. He's actually dead in Arkham Knight, and it's actually.
Yeah, I'll probably play like the voice line here.
Hello, operator. I believe my party's been disconnected.
Oh, we're gonna cook up something special now. All this sitting around is driving me crazy. When do we get to the fighting?
But it's very surprising, honestly, because it's like they brought back Mark Hamill. Like, they have the monies to do that. I mean, he's the most iconic guy,
money.
but like...
For him, it's not about money. It's honestly, it's if he feels like it. Because he's got money. He's fine.
Yeah, we gotta see the story behind that. Anyway, speaking of a story behind something, we're gonna cover the production of a little-known, well, not little-known movie.
Influential movie. Very influential.
Influential.
Yeah.
Also, while we're speaking about multiverses, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
1943.
Two monsters cross over for the first time in Universal Monster Cinema.
Yeah. This movie we mentioned as influential because of a couple reasons. You would not have Jason versus Freddy, King Kong versus Godzilla, both of them.
Marvel.
Yeah, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, any cinematic universe, because anybody who thinks, oh, Marvel's the first one to do cinematic, no, Universal did. Because as far as anybody knew, the Wolfman and that whole storyline was its own thing. I mean, they had the Mummy series that kind of was its own thing and didn't cross over with anything else. And then you had Frankenstein, the story of Frankenstein's monster is like, okay, that's its own thing. But the fact that they kind of crossed over, you're like, oh, they're in the same universe. So that whole feel to these movies, which they some people I call them Monster Mash movies because because they had that song, the Monster Mash, but they
mash a bunch of monsters together in a little sandbox to see what they do. And it's mostly either attacking each other or befriending each other.
Yeah.
Which in this case, it's befriending more than attacking.
Yeah, and
they only really attack at the end for like a little bit. It honestly
should be called Frankenstein meets Lawrence Talbot and then fights him when he turns into the Wolfman. So he's actually Larry Lawrence Talbot, whatever, played by Lon Chaney Jr., gets a lot of screen time in this. I mean, he gets a lot of screen time in The Wolfman, too. He gets a chance to really show off that cursed, the whole thing where he's just kind of depressed and cursed.
Oh, actually, we have stats on that.
Okay.
Frankenstein in this film appears on screen. Bela Lugosi as Frankenstein appears exactly 5 minutes and 6 seconds. So he is literally on screen for 5 minutes.
How long is the actual Wolfman, Mr. Fuzzy?
Basically the whole movie, and we don't have stats for that, but Frankenstein is on screen for 5 minutes 6 seconds. The interesting thing is they do use stunt actors due to Bela Lugosi's just suffering with all the makeup, but you'll likely talk about that shortly.
Yeah, he's 60 years old. The makeup, though, I just you know how there's that you know how there's that rivalry between Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi. That rivalry, we don't know how truthful that whole thing is. I'm not sure if that's even real or not. I think a lot of that is just maybe we want it to be because they're such iconic figures in the early horror genre. But
they started out with like Dracula, Frankenstein. They had a couple like Bela Lugosi different things. Son of Frankenstein would be like the high point for the Frankenstein series in that it has like Bela Lugosi at his finest and Frankenstein as finest as he can
Bela
be.
Lugosi was great
Bride of
as
Frankenstein,
Igor. Yeah.
The second movie was likely Boris Karloff's peak as Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah. Well,
although again, this movie would be just all the budget, all the sets, the scope, and everything.
Yeah.
Was above like both of those movies.
It was like 300,000. Is that was the budget, right?
I don't have it in front of me.
I think I'll have to pull it up, but I think I was right. I'll pull up in a minute. All right, so
yeah, and then after this is where they started pulling into Lon Chaney Jr. stuff with Wolfman that we just did. This would also be Ghost of Frankenstein, the sort of spelling the downfall for Bela Lugosi as well as Boris Karloff because none of them really expressed themselves as much as they could have.
Yeah. Now,
and that's really where we are today with 1943, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
What I was going to mention is let's talk about the makeup for just a moment. I'll come back to that, circle back to that. but the makeup for Frankenstein's monster is actually, I mean, it's really not as complex as Jack Pierce did, did the makeup for the previous outings as Frankenstein's monster, and it's not great. The makeup is not great. I mean, there's even there's even parts where there's a scene we'll talk about, but there's a scene where you have the frozen kind of wall, like the little alcove frozen area where Frankenstein's monster is frozen in it. That's not Bela Lugosi. That's the stunt.
Yeah,
that's
it's a stunt double because he didn't want to squeeze into the ice ball.
I forget what those guys' names are. There's one guy named Gil.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But the thing is, this body double that they put into the ice wall instead of Bela Lugosi, people said that they liked him more in pictures. And I'm like, I go back and see the scene.
He angles more towards. There's a guy named Glenn Strange that's going to play Frankenstein's monster going forward. Your mileage may vary about whether you like him or not. I still think Karloff is the iconic to me. Karloff is the iconic, Frankenstein's monster always. I think that they little by little they started having it less played by really excellent actors. Sorry, Glenn. After Bela Lugosi, they were just kind of like, we'll just have it be just a big guy, and that's all Glenn Strange ends up being. I'm sorry. He ends up being is just a big 6 foot plus tall guy, the kind of big lug that they can have be, for.
I feel like they want to capitalize on his name more than anything.
Well, maybe.
Like Glenn Strange?
I think that's just a coincidence. I think they capitalized on his size and his imposing nature. Which even with
yeah, but not gonna lie, that was certainly a factor. They wanted marketability.
I think it's like, I like that name, but Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman did not get really good reviews at the time. It did make decent amount of money, but probably just enough to keep things going. But early on,
I want to say that. Sorry, I was pulling up the scene from the movie where we have this stunt double.
Yeah,
and I just want to say that I feel like this actor has sort of the face shape of Boris Karloff, more like. It's most noticeable in the eyes, right? The stunt guy. And so his face was more like, boxular, got that forehead, got the jaw. It's box-shaped, see? Like my face is like an oval.
How about rectangular?
Rectangular.
There you go.
Whatever.
There you go.
The most thing that sticks out against looking like Boris Karloff would be like the eyes, especially, and then like the nose is slightly different, as it's more like actually more like mine.
Yeah.
But people liked to look him.
No.
People said that he looked a lot better as a monster than Bela Lugosi did. But again, there's a lot of bad press for Bela Lugosi as the monster, as we'll soon tell.
Yeah, here's what I'll say is that one thing I wanted to mention off the top is that in the last episode that we did, we talked about Son of Dracula, which had Lon Chaney Jr. in it, and he plays a character he should not have been playing. He should have been playing the character that he was born to play, which is Lawrence Talbot, a.k.a. the Wolfman. He learned his lesson and played that character in this movie. But another character that played Dracula really well didn't learn a lesson and decided he could play here's the thing though. Originally, and this would have been murder on Lon Chaney Jr. Originally, it was going to be Lon Chaney Jr. was going to play Frankenstein's monster, and he was going to play Larry Talbot and the Wolfman too.
But then again, they have to swap them in two different styles of makeup.
Oh my!
And then compositing.
They would film all the scenes with Frankenstein together, and I guess the scenes where they cross over and fight would be stuntmen. So they'd just be like almost like on their version of green screens, like looking over at each other.
And that wouldn't be great.
That would not be great, and I'm glad they didn't do that. So here's the deal. If you remember in Ghost of Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster had his skull popped open, and Igor's brain gets put in there, And all of a sudden, Igor's voice is coming out of Frankenstein's monster. He's like, I will rule the world and all of you little people, like that. And it was Bela Lugosi's voice. And then he gets blinded. And so he's moving around with his arms outstretched, like, and whenever anybody does like their imitation of Frankenstein's monster, they're generally doing the blinded Frankenstein from Ghost of Frankenstein. And if you know...
Yeah, no, I think this movie originated both Frankenstein's zombie walk as well as people mistaking the doctor and the monster. Because it's called Frankenstein's meets the Wolfman, not the monster meets the Wolfman.
Well, the only Frankenstein in this is Elsa. Elsa Frankenstein, played by Ilona Massey from Invisible Agent. Go listen to our episode about that.
Oh yeah, that was her, wasn't she?
Yes, she was the German double agent who was in love with Mr. Invisible Agent.
Or the actor played her Invisible Agent.
Yes. So
Elsa Frankenstein, the original movie, was
well, this is Elsa.
Not her.
This is Elsa, the daughter of the son of Frank. It's confusing. She's the daughter of the son of Frankenstein. Does that make sense? No? Okay. Well, then you're just as confused as we are. You know what? People during the time didn't care about this kind of thing. That's what some people have reported, is that people at the time didn't care as much about continuity as we do now. Now we're like, we have whole videos where people are like nitpicking every little detail of a movie, going, oh yeah, but in Iron Man, he didn't have that kind of tattoo, or, I don't know, something stupid like that. You get what I'm saying. But people nitpicks movies down. You know what? One reason why, we mentioned this before about the continuity issues when we talked about the Mummy series, is nobody had VHS. No Betamax, no VHS, no Laserdisc, nothing. Are you
talking about how TV was aired out of order back in the day?
Yeah, well, somewhat. In order to see these movies, they either had to show them on TV, like in the 60s.
You had the Book of Time.
Oh yeah, you couldn't see it. You have to go see them in the movie theater or not at all. And now, if you want to see something, it's all streaming. So you can just rent it and there it is, or it's on Archive or YouTube or something. And you just go boom, and there it is. So you can sit there and you can binge watch every Universal monster movie in like a week if you want. And you can notice all the little, nitpick it all you want, notice all the different continuity errors. But they didn't care about that kind of thing back in the day. They didn't notice it. They just went, okay. They just went with it. And sometimes that's to a good thing, but I like it when a movie has good, tight continuity, because it rewards you for paying attention. But they don't keep to the continuity great, but are they entertaining? Somewhat, yeah, then we'll talk about that. So the idea for this movie came out as a joke. Did you read about this at all? So
I will say the premise is very simple. The title is also quite simple. It was written very quickly. Well, the movie as well as the title, because the title was apparently, it was literally just, hey, how about we do the Frankenstein meets the monster?
No, but here's what it was.
I think he said Frankenstein, Wolf's the meat monster.
Wolf's the meat man.
Wolf's the meat man. And it was like, no, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
But it was Kurt Sudmak, I think, and maybe he had like a German accent or something. So he said it wrong. And it was so funny. And I think Kurt Sudmak also had just recently bought a Corvette or a car or something, a sports car. And he was like, oh, I got to pay this thing back. And George Wagner, the producer who directed The Wolfman, they had like a bet. He said, if you can agree to write this movie in 2 hours, I'll help you, I'll pay off your car or something. And then that's where this movie began. That's just started out as a joke.
Though I will say it's pretty effective, and the premise is very effective. It's very simple. The rules are simple. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
And he does.
What happens?
It does happen. But when you think about it, it's not versus, it's meets. But if it was versus and you only had a 3-minute fight, you'd be very, upset.
I think it was like literally like a 1-minute fight at that point.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, which is a really long title, that came out years ago. But, the big thing they were trying to push in the movie trailer was Batman is gonna fight Superman. and it's only like 15 to 20 minutes or 15 minutes. And then they kind of have bigger fish to fry. They've got a villain that they've got to fight, and they've got to team up. So
I mean, if there was a movie that had like fighting
promise, you had to
related to its premise,
right?
Longer,
yeah.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World,
no,
because he's fighting all of his like future.
He doesn't
lovers of his love.
No, actually,
so that's what he does basically the whole time.
No, he's fighting the ex-boyfriends of the girl he's currently dating.
I thought the potential boyfriends. I'm mistaken. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. But he doesn't really fight the world. It's just saying, he's got the world, the weight of the world on his shoulders. But that doesn't deliver.
But still,
on the
he's
promise
like
of the
he's fighting everyone who's against him throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
So I will say it's at least more effective.
Also, I'm gonna dip into the cast real quick before we go back to talking about this. Okay. So, like we said, Lon Chaney Jr. played Lawrence Talbot, Larry Talbot, the Wolfman. Ilona Massey from Invisible Agent is playing Baroness Elsa Frankenstein. She does a good job in this, as far as I can tell. Let's see.
Pretty sure we've had Patrick Knowles.
Yes. Okay. What was Patrick Knowles in?
Don't know. His face is familiar.
Okay. I'm gonna quiz you on this.
We have had Lionel Atwell before.
Well, he
was
played
in
the mayor and
the Vampire Bat.
He also played Inspector Krogh from.
Or is that Belmore? I might be mistaken.
No. Lionel Belmore is a different guy.
Dwight Fry is in this movie.
He is. He's called Rudy in the cast list, but I've never heard anybody say Rudy. He's just
how did I not notice?
He's just
Dwight Fry is in the movie.
Yes, he's one of the guys that is kind of like talking about, we should, bomb. He's kind of down with the whole bombing of the dam at the end of the movie.
But it's quite rare to see him this far.
Okay.
Out.
Well, this is actually his last role. He died months
he
after
literally
this.
yeah.
Okay, so Patrick Knowles. There was a limerick in 1940 that circulated about Patrick Knowles. Let me read it to you. How pleasant to know Patrick Knowles, who is the kindest of souls, but being handsome and a British swell, nobody expects him to act very well, which is why he never gets good roles.
I think the syllable count is off.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to...
No.
It's supposed to go like, limericks are da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Limericks are about the beat.
It doesn't roll off the
tempo.
tongue.
Haiku is about the number of syllables, yeah. But I think what that tells me is that he's a nice guy, but as far as getting all the best roles, he doesn't get them because he's just a handsome everyman, and you're gonna have those around. But in the horror genre, especially Universal, you've got to have something, that little extra bit. And I have to say, Larry Talbot, the Wolfman, he really brings it in this.
Because the movie's mainly about him.
He does a great
job.
Because
I think they saw more potential, less potential in Frankenstein, because Frankenstein's sort of dying out here. They saw more potential in the Wolfman because it's their new thing.
This serves as a kind of a sequel, a pseudo sequel to the Wolfman. It really does, because he's really a big character in this. This movie was directed by Roy William Neill. I don't know very much about him except he directed this movie. He's famous for directing this movie and about 8 or 9 Sherlock Holmes movies from back in the day. And Sherlock Holmes was played by Basil Rathbone, who played Wolf von Frankenstein, from Son of Frankenstein. So there's a little bit of a connection there. I don't know. It's kind of like the, Kevin Bacon game, I guess, with that. But
which, if you don't know, everything connects to Kevin Bacon.
Everything connects to Kevin Bacon. All right,
Kevin Bacon.
So, but here's the thing about Marie Ospinskaya: she actually wasn't very easy to work with. She was kind of what people would call now a diva. She was very specific about everything. She actually was on the phone with her astrologer. She believed in astrology so much that she was like, "Oh, I'll only act on these days because of her whole horoscope wasn't aligned or some nonsense." She did get an accident with Lon Chaney Jr. You know the scenes where they were in a wagon, where they're traveling to Visaria along the whatever.
Did she fall off the wagon?
They both did. The wagon fell and pinned them both, and I think it broke her ankle. And so she...
How did it do that?
Because it had a wooden wheel. It smashed her leg. They weren't very careful.
Okay, I was like, how do you end up entirely underneath the entire wagon? It just flips over upside down over top of them?
Lon Chaney Jr., if you were to believe the stories about...
Imagine the horses.
If you were to believe the stories about Lon Chaney Jr., he was constantly off the wagon, if you know what I mean. He's kind of got...
Yeah, I will say the cast was really suffering. Yeah, I will say, Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney Jr. Were both dealing with addiction, especially as their careers went on into the 1950s.
Bela Lugosi was addicted to heroin and... No, morphine and then methadone. Sorry. Because the methadone was supposed to get you off of the morphine, but you get addicted to the methadone.
Yeah, I don't think they had heroin back then.
They did have heroin. It was junk. It was called junk or...
Yeah, I think they mainly had male heroes back in the horror days. I didn't hear of any heroines except for Return of the Vampire.
That's terrible. No, opium is what heroin is made from, and opium has been around.
Yeah, and those are ages one.
Okay, the guy who played the Gravedigger, which he had like a real quick scene, he would actually go on to do a lot bigger things. His name was Jeff Corey. He went on to be in some Star Trek episodes. He actually taught acting in Hollywood after this, and a lot of people, went to the schools where he taught. The Jeff Corey. So there's all, like Jack Nicholson and people like that, were had studied, the different methods underneath him. The most famous thing about this movie, amongst people that are in the know about trivia about these movies, is this movie originally had Bela Lugosi speaking in the Igor kind of voice as Frankenstein's monster. There's certain scenes where if you look carefully, you can see his lips moving. What happened is they did an early screening for the production staff of Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, and it got unintentional laughter. People were like going, "This is hilarious," but it didn't have the effect that they wanted. You want this movie to be creepy and scary and on the edge of the seat, and people were dying laughing. Because you're having Bela Lugosi's voice come out of Frankenstein's monster.
And it's supposed to be horrifying.
It's supposed to be, but I have some of the lines.
I do too.
I will try to find some of my best ones.
I was going to intercept you.
Oh yeah.
But however, you have them already yourself.
Well, I was also going to say, he says things like, "I once had the strength of 100 men. It is gone. I am sick." Yeah. So he's also blind a lot in this movie. You notice that Larry Talbot is like...
Oh, so you're not going to do the lines. I'll do them if you'd like.
I did one of them. Okay, what line?
You did one of them, but I'll do...
Which ones did you...
Basically, most of the lines I couldn't find like the original script, so I had to transcribe them from a video.
Yes,
but
yes, I tried to, yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, this is the scene when they meet. They would have been like chatting over the fire, but they cut out this entire part.
Yes.
It starts with Bela Lugosi. "Where are you? I can hardly see. Watch out, you'll burn yourself." "Burn myself? Help me get up." "How did you get here?" "The village people wanted to kill me. They burned my house down. Dr. Frankenstein died before my eyes. I ran, my clothes afire. Down to the cellar, down into the ice house, where I could be safe." And this is long, by the way. "But I fell into the main stream and lost consciousness." Right, going in the main stream. Yeah.
So
when I woke up, I was frozen in a block of ice for thousands of years, unable to move. I told you it'd be long. It's not that long, but it is a little long. "Buried alive, I know. Yes, buried alive, until you found me. What is your name?" "Lawrence Talbot." "What are you doing here?" "Hiding, same as you. Those futile little mortals. And you hate them too?" "Yes." "Then you are my friend. We need friends. We can help out each other. How can we get out of here?" "The laboratory must be behind the ice." They start walking. "Dr. Frankenstein made this body to be immortal. His son gave me a new brain. A clever brain. I will use it for the benefit of the miserable people who inhabit the world. I will rule the world, and witness the fruit of my wisdom for all of eternity. But if you grew tired of living, if the light of day and the dark of night become unbearable to you, would you cling to the earth for centuries without the hope of finding peace? What if you wanted to die? I don't think of death, only to get strong and well. The story of my creation is written down in Dr. Frankenstein's diary. He knew the secret of immortality and the secret of death. The secret of death? He knew it. I have to have the book. Where is it? The diary? Why should you have it? The diary might make you strong again and give your eyesight back, and it could help me. You said you were my friend. Or you said I was your friend. Who else would help you if I don't? How do I know you won't trick me? You've got to trust me. The diary will tell how to cure you, give you back your strength and eyesight. You're weak. You couldn't defend yourself if the people from this area attacked you again. They can't kill me. But if they catch you, chain you, bury you alive, 6 feet under, with lots of earth under your on your body, where would your powers be then? And this is all that they do to convince him. I will say it is a little bit cringeworthy. Well, the futile little mortals part, the mainstream lost consciousness.
That's scary.
I feel like when he's like, "How you know you won't trick me?" and he's like, "You've got to trust me."
Well, he said
the diary will tell you how to cure you, give you back your strength and eyesight. He just repeated what he just said, though.
Right, but it's the dialogue here was good. Maybe if they did it a different way, but if you think about it, one who was dead.
They do.
Wait, hang on. One who was dead wants to live and become well and strong, right?
And another wants to do the opposite.
One who lives wants to die. So it's kind of the opposite. That I always like those.
But they do relate on the not wanting to be buried alive, which at the beginning of the movie, Lawrence Talbot was in like a coffin and sort of like resurrected due to becoming a werewolf out of the coffin.
Yes.
And so like going to be buried alive. Sort of thing, because somehow he's still alive after all that.
And of course, Frankenstein's monster was buried alive.
And also it tells, they don't really tell the origin of how he got there, which was that a bunch of people went and attacked them and burned down the house. He went to go escape, and then went to the ice house, and then Elsa Frankenstein escaped. It leads back into Ghost of Frankenstein.
Yes.
Where, remember, the house is burning down?
Yes.
And he walked out of it burning. Although, I don't know if we forgot to mention it, but there was like a promotional picture of him burning as he's walking out of the house, and it's really cool looking. Although probably too much budget on like the burning to put that in the movie.
Right.
But like this gives like an origin of where he was. They talk about like the diary, and like sort of convinces him to do it. They actually dub over a lot of this dialogue when they're walking.
Yes.
With him saying a line. We'll play the line here.
Dr. Frankenstein must have kept records. A diary. You know where it is. Show me.
Sort of like ham-fisting it in.
Yes.
When they find the photo of Elsa Frankenstein, he clarifies that she escaped the fire, so is a lead. But that's sort of, I guess, implied by him not talking.
Right.
He goes like, I've got to go find her because he was with the notes. Which is, yeah, that made it a little better when it did have dialogue. Like less ham-fisty. They cut a dialogue that clarifies the monster came to the festival later on, when he was afraid he would leave and bolt with the diary.
Yes.
He's like, you betrayed me. So I went to the festival, and that they escape via the wagon at the end, and like all the barrels come down. Lawrence then is like insulting him because he's like, you said you were given a smart brain, not a dumb brain.
Yeah, dumb. Yeah, he calls him dumb.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, when Dr. Mannering bursts in after this, I know I haven't covered the plot yet, but I will.
Yeah.
But this is just all like the different thing changes. He would burst in after this, and so Lawrence Talbot is like, oh, you know this guy, Dr. Mannering? He's like, yes, I know him. And he's like, he has come to make him well, which wasn't really established at all. He's like, okay, he's there to make him well then? He really just appeared. But yeah, that's all really like the cut dialogue. I feel like it makes things a little bit less ham-fisty by like establishing some things, but I feel like this dialogue here isn't really that good either. Because like, you're here to make him well. Okay, why did you choose those words? The constant, repeating like strong again and eyesight back and well. You know, the word choices that they picked, I think, were not that great.
Yeah, the script is like the script.
It wouldn't have added
the script,
much.
honestly, is one of the weaker parts. Sorry, Kurt.
Yeah, I've been
weaker.
saying that he doesn't really do that great. It's more like just elegant, shaven down, like really concentrated. But he doesn't really do like a good writing. He doesn't do Casablanca writing.
No,
you know?
No, and Kurt Sudmak never really was famous for that. I mean, you know, didn't he get like some kind of award for writing Donovan's Brain?
Yeah, but I just want to talk about how the impact of removing the dialogue sort of affects the movie.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, Bela Lugosi, like, if they did have an issue with it in The Ghost of Frankenstein, maybe it was because there was, like, more coverage of him that would have been there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't much more than he'd had. Like, just, like, one scene and a couple lines more.
But here's the other part, too, is...
I feel like they shouldn't have laughed if they liked Ghost of Frankenstein.
Yeah, you see Lon Chaney Jr. and
this is one of the most interesting things to me. That's where I was like,
Frankenstein's
I
monster,
really wanted to see this film.
And you see, well, we don't have, nobody has the footage. It's just probably gone. No
one has the footage.
You see the voice of Bela Lugosi coming out of Lon Chaney Jr. as Frankenstein's monster, and it's kind of effective. It's weird, but it's effective. It may be kind of strange and whatever, but so to speak. But
maybe it's because it was coming from Bela Lugosi's actual face. That might have been the problem.
Coming from Bela Lugosi, that probably threw him off. They were like, "Oh, they're thinking about, you know, Mr. Hungarian."
Yeah, but I just wanted to sort of emphasize that, like, this is probably one of the most interesting conversations about this movie is like this cut dialogue here. What would it have done for the movie, especially concerning Bela Lugosi's inclusion in this movie? Should he have been included in this movie?
I think.
What do you think?
I don't. He was already aging. He doesn't bring anything specifically Frankensteinian. No. He doesn't.
Frankensteinian.
He doesn't bring anything to this role really that somebody else couldn't have brought. You can use
the only thing the dialogue really does do is provide continuity with Ghost of Frankenstein.
He should have done.
He should have done the
dialogue.
Nice.
He should have done the dialogue, and what they could have done is maybe pitch it down, and make it sound, you know, deeper and kind of scarier, maybe a little bit. I don't know. We're kind of going through this movie, going, "What would I have done better?"
Does that make him sound like this distorted monster creature? That could have worked.
But some of the dialogue in there was actually genuinely creepy. It genuinely was creepy to me. And I think that it brought some comparisons to, you know, you got the comparison between, you know, you got Larry Talbot who wants to die, and you've got the dead one who wants to live and become more powerful. And he's almost more villainous because he's got Igor. He's not.
Yeah, he's smart. He's not just wandering around.
Yeah, but
blind.
he's also. But Karloff, you know, made him seem like
which is one thing he does.
He was a misunderstood.
Sorry,
it's okay. Karloff made Frankenstein's monster seem a misunderstood character, one that you kind of went, yeah, I feel for him a little bit. But as soon as Igor's brain gets into Frankenstein's monster's skull, he starts feeling more villainous to me, and I think that it makes the Wolfman more of a hero in my mind, and Frankenstein's monster more of the villain. You still get little schemes of that, little bits of that, but I think if you got the dialogue, some of the dialogue, not all of it, but some of it,
yeah, like at the point that when Frankenstein is in this movie, he could have been ripped out entirely.
Yeah,
because he doesn't do that much for the story. He's like, okay, Frankenstein is here, but what does this mean?
They want him to fight so bad.
Connecting it with Ghost of Frankenstein might make it help meaning.
Well, they're also, maybe have a flashback. They're money makers too, man. They're money makers. Yeah. Wolfman made money and Frankenstein made money.
Also, the blindness is why he is holding his arms out in the movie.
Yes.
And with that dialogue cut, he's just like that. And it's a little confusing, but yeah, it's
super confusing. Do you remember the scene in the movie where it's after Bela Lugosi as Frankenstein's monster is strapped down and he's getting that energy from the hydroelectric dam and the cyclotron.
That's like when he opens up his eyes.
Yeah, and he looks over and kind of smiles.
He would have said, "I can see."
He smiles slightly evilly, and you're like, if you know he's blind, you're like, oh, he can see now, and he's like, oh, he's
more dangerous now.
Yes, thank you. That would have made that scene so much better, knowing that he can't see very well.
Oh, by the way, there is one line where he talks about hearing the water running that's turning the turbines. The turbines are working again.
Yes.
That line was given to Lon Chaney Jr. instead of Bela Lugosi.
Right. Okay. So they just had him,
which is it's a little weird that he told that versus just asking him what it is.
Yes.
It does make him seem more like he's got it together versus Frankenstein doesn't have it together at all.
But actually, the stuntmen are the ones that really bring it at the end, because Bela Lugosi was so old he couldn't do any of the real action sequences. It was done by the stuntman.
Yeah, imagine throwing them and then you miss the crash mat, or he hits the crash mat wrong.
Well, did you notice that this ended up looking
his bones are broken?
This ended up looking like a wrestling match, because we'll talk about it when you talk about the plot real quick. But the Wolfman continually, his big move is climb up on the top rope and jump off with a flying elbow. He's always climbing up on stuff and jumping off onto. That's his move. It's like he doesn't have any. He'll scrap a little bit, but he always wants to jump.
Yeah, he's like, after all, that's why they call him Obi-Wan, not Obi-Lost.
No, he wants the high ground
because he's got the high ground.
Yeah, that's a joke that I think one of my kids made.
He's like the pile driver dude.
Yes, exactly. All right, so what are some other things what are some things about it that, give me some things you liked and give me some things that you thought were lackluster.
I think, the Kurt Siodmak scripts are always they're very hit or miss, and just generally where I think he actually said in an interview, don't have it in front of me. I've said that multiple times.
Yeah.
I don't have it right here in front of me, but I believe he basically said that while other people were they could write the story, he could do well with scratch. He could do well with write something in a week. It was very quickly written movie, by the way.
So he's prolific. It doesn't mean that it was quality.
Yeah.
Well,
he could write things. He could be given an idea, write it in a week, where most people would take longer, but maybe with more quality and stuff.
He's a turner.
And he said that's why that's what he does. That's why he makes films.
And he is a good idea man. I mean, he's the one that came up with the, even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night becomes a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. Except,
oh yeah, by the way, it's just the full moon.
Yeah,
that's where it matched with
bright, because
that's modern lore now.
Yeah, because they were like, we can't have him just turn into a werewolf in the fall. He's got to turn into him 4 times in the movie. Yeah, it's got to happen once or more a month, or else we won't have anything to do. Yeah,
despite the budget decrease of this and Ghost of Frankenstein, just the immaculate usage of set and that dam model at the end where they make it all crash down and stuff. It just shows me why I like these movies.
Yeah.
Just seeing that, get better and better.
One of the best cemetery sets in
Return of the Vampire probably would have had
Return of the Vampire it was really good.
Very
good cemetery set. Yeah.
They're both really good. They're both really competing just they're neck and neck. Sort of. I would give Return of the Vampires a big of a touch more though.
It's more
just because its size.
Yeah, it's
versus the shack has more of a focus in this movie's set, which is where they pan into.
Right,
they're both great.
Village of Landwelly, the Landwelly Cemetery.
Although the one from Bride of Frankenstein was very very iconic.
Oh, the
lot
catacomb.
simpler.
It's more catacomb looking. More underground.
Because that's what they went underground. That's what they did.
Yeah, it's very creepy.
When he was we're talking about he was gonna wrestle across there, that part.
Right.
That graveyard.
Yes. So, okay.
Yeah. Even at the beginning of the first Frankenstein film, while it's still small, it's just
Who
like
would you
got a lot
say-
of decorations.
Who
I
would
will
you
say
is
that
the,
one
is the best actor in this movie? Who would you say?
Bela Lugosi does make a bunch of weird faces in this movie.
That's not acting, Bo. Not to me. I would say Lon Chaney Jr. does the best job. I mean, he does a great job with Larry Talbot. He's cursed, but now he wants to end the curse by ending his own. In fact, we're gonna.
But the thing
see
is,
that
I
again
believe
more in the next movies.
I believe they put Ilona Massey and Patrick Knowles on first bill basis.
Yeah.
And they put Lon Chaney Jr. and Bela Lugosi on second
They should
bill
have flipped
basis.
that. I'm sorry. I think Ilona Massey's good and Patrick Knowles is serviceable, but they do not need to be top billed.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like parts where they're like talking in this movie. That's like, okay, but what do we need this for, really? I feel like horror movie sequels, the one thing that they don't do well is that they have to set up like the discovery of the monsters all over again. Well, at least most of them. I think like Son of Frankenstein at least had a little bit was still there because the entire town of Frankenstein was like Frankenstein's monster has been trampling around on here for years and we're all hiding and everything's sad. You know, they at least didn't have to discover them in that film at least. But most of the sequels, I feel like that's the bane of them. Is that they have to like set up the last movie, like, oh, the vampire is here now and he bit people. Now we know that vampires actually exist. They're not fake. What do you think?
Right, exactly. Yeah. There's two other movies we're going to do later. House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula. And those have Lon Chaney Jr. and those are the Monster Mash movies. I would consider
those are like the truly last monster
gasp.
movies.
Well, there's one more Monster Mash movie, and that is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Yeah, but that's just a comedy movie with monsters. That was sort of the gimmick.
It's
was
got
that
Bela Lugosi.
We have a comedy
it's got Bela
duo
as Dracula
with monsters, like comedy horror.
Yeah.
And
it works.
We've talked about how Maria was injured by falling off the cart.
Yeah.
I think that's why she isn't present toward the last third of the movie.
That's
is
right.
because she was in the hospital.
That is correct. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah, there was a very troubled development of this movie, especially with Bela Lugosi was constantly having like stress with like makeup on and off. Oh, this is terrible. They had to do the stunt doubles for when he was just like, no. Apparently he sat in the hot tub a lot because of stress.
Also, when I was talking about earlier about the supposedly there being a rivalry between Lugosi and Karloff. Karloff was infamous for being able to wear a lot of makeup, a lot of really, I mean, just looking at his makeup in The Mummy is crazy. And I know he didn't like it, but he was able to sit through hours of it with Jack Pierce and find a way through it. And he wore a lot more makeup than Bela Lugosi was at.
I feel like the mummies, because they were entirely covered, would probably have been some of the worst.
Bela kind of he was in his 60s. I mean, and Boris Karloff was done playing Frankenstein. He comes back again in one of the House movies, one of the Monster Mash movies. He plays another character, but he does come back to the series as a different
Additionally, the Wolfman actually transforms on screen a whole lot more in this movie.
He does, like 3 times, I think.
Yeah, a lot more like effects used in this movie.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's
he was actually nailed down for the effects. Literal nails. Apparently, like, through the ends of his fingers so that he would be demotivated from moving, because otherwise they would rip.
Oh, wow.
I don't think they should have done that.
No, they wouldn't have gotten away with that.
They're here, like, crucifying Lon Chaney Jr. To become the werewolf.
The Wolfman died for our sins. Yeah.
The Wolfman died for our sins? No. I don't think... I don't think that should have been the move.
No. I thought that they did that to Bela Lugosi to keep him still, but no, it was Lon.
He didn't really... that would have been more pain.
Yeah.
But no, he didn't really need to, like... Bela Lugosi could probably, like, stop moving, because he doesn't have, like... He doesn't have, like... The Wolfman is, like, transforming in, like, at least 8 different stages, so they have to keep him still for a lot of that.
They do. And And
Bela Lugosi's
Karloff,
Frankenstein doesn't change.
Karloff, well, Lon Chaney, if you think about it, Lon Chaney and Lon Chaney Jr. were both put through, like, both had stuff, you know, things hooked into their skin so they could play the characters better. So my question to you is, what happened in the movie? Do you want to get us started with that?
Welcome back from the break, y'all. Let's go into the plot. But first, something I saw earlier, which is they actually had George Lucas be interviewed about the sequel trilogy. I don't think you've seen anything about that, but I just wanted to. I
think so. I think I
a little discussion.
I didn't read the article. What did he say?
Yeah, but basically he was like, it's not great. Could have done it better, I guess. Here's what his version of the sequel would have been: Darth Maul trains a girl whose name is Darth Talon, and she becomes the new Darth Vader. Darth Maul becomes basically like the Godfather, but like for the whole Star Wars universe. He's like the Emperor, basically.
Yeah.
Princess Leia, is trying to rebuild the Republic. That might be a typo.
Yeah. They should
rebuild the Republic.
Republic.
The Republic. There we are. And it's basically a few years after Return of the Jedi. Offshoot stormtroopers have started their own planets, which is interesting, because it's like, why would the stormtroopers do that? I think they're trying to do it's like a Bad Batch sort of thing,
or they're doing like an Imperial remnant, you know?
Yeah, Luke is trying to restart the Jedi, of which maybe 50 or 100 are left. He is basically searching around for 2- and 3-year-olds and training them. By the end of the trilogy, Luke would have rebuilt the Jedi, and Leia becomes Supreme Chancellor.
Chancellor, yeah.
She becomes the Supreme Chancellor of the whole galaxy, which is a little bit interesting, with, you know, especially with some of the ideas that he was playing with from the prequel trilogy coming into this into the original series material,
like Maul and Chancellors, because
Darth Maul,
yeah,
Chancellors. Maybe a little bit of like the Clone Wars, Bad Batch sort of situation.
Right.
I remember when there was an episode, it might have been in Rebels, but I think it was in Clone Wars, where they had their whole like stormtroopers that were like off the code, and I think that had like the Bad Batch, one of the general dudes from like the first episodes was in there, and they were like on this walker thing. It might have been Rebels, but I don't know. It could have easily been really like Clone Wars.
Right.
Anyways. Let's talk about Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, which I did do a little bit of glancing on the plot earlier in reference to like the dialogue, but that was without a lot of context.
Okay.
So I was sort of like sort of confused with like, okay, is that better than what they established, or did they establish it well enough without the dialogue? Let's see.
Right.
So first of all, what do you think about like the opening of this movie? Like, the last one had, like, the webs. There's, like, a web behind them, and then they, like, claw it down, and it reveals, like, the logo.
I liked that. I thought that was pretty cool. This one is what, smoke? Kind of a rising or something? What was it?
You have to see it. It's taking a long time to load.
You trying to pull it up?
Smoke is forming, like, it's forming into the logo, and that's cool.
That's not bad. They're using some of the smoke effects from Son of Dracula.
Better than we have seen yet, and we will see very creative opening titles animated and everything.
Yeah.
In this era.
Depends on how much money they have, or how much money they want to dedicate to that. Yeah, absolutely.
4 years after the Wolfman, we have a duo of grave robbers who are breaking in to the Talbot family crypt, but it's the full moon. Unfortunately, them being very dumb, removing the wolf's bane, and the full moon gets onto Lawrence Talbot's body, so he becomes the Wolfman.
That's what wakes him up, right? So my question is this: is Larry Talbot just special? Because his dad, you remember his dad, Sir John Talbot, hit him with the silver tip of the silver tipped cane and beat him down, and that's what killed him. But his body hasn't decayed at all, and there's actually the incorruptibility of the body is actually something that a lot of saints have. Like there's some people who've been canonized as saints that their bodies haven't decayed. So you're like, why did his body decay? I think we're asking too many questions. We're just supposed to.
I like to think that he got revived by the moon.
Yeah,
But yeah, they could have.
But
they could have like put more like
zombified.
makeup to make him like look a bit more like dead or like covered in whatever they put on dead bodies.
He had long fingernails. I saw he had kind of like.
Yeah. Although I feel like transitioning from like one set of makeup to another makeup instead of no makeup to full makeup would probably have been a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, but
they could have made it work.
They wanted to keep it. I think they want to do a little bit.
Could have covered him with dust and then have the dust fall off.
Let's do some secrets. Here. I think that they wanted to keep his first appearance kind of mysterious, and I'm cool. I'm cool with that. You can't just reveal the monster like that. You got to take your time.
So he goes prowling, and he is eventually found in Cardiff, which wasn't mentioned in the movie. It was mentioned in the script, though. This is like the only mention that he is in Wales.
Yeah,
it
is mentioned. It's mentioned somewhere in the script. That's Cardiff. Cardiff is in Wales. That's where they film a lot of Doctor Who season 10 or the 10th. Anyway, go ahead.
So he is found by the police. They take him to Dr. Mannering's like hospital where he's there. And so he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know what I was doing. And he's like, well, we'll keep you here. Everything will be all right. You'll be able to stay here. You'll be fine. Except full moon appears yet again. And then he goes down to the streets of, about said Lawton, but that would also might be incorrect. It might be Wales again.
Right.
I don't know.
It's probably still Cardiff, yeah.
He goes and he kills a police constable who's, like, after him. Next morning, Larry is like, wait a minute. I just killed somebody. And then Dr. Mannering's like, okay. Well, I guess if you're a bum on the road, then I guess that's plausible. But you might be, like, crazy whacked out alcohol.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, and so he's like, quick, get people to protect me so I don't kill anyone again. It says here, Inspector Owen believes Larry to be an imposter, having confirmed reports of his death and demands to know his real identity. So basically, I guess he's like, who are you actually?
He says, I'm Larry Talbot. I'm Lawrence Talbot. And he's like, well, wait a minute. We've got record of a Lawrence Talbot that died 4 years ago. Right. That's me.
Yeah, also, he believes that he is now immortal because he cannot die. And so he's going to seek Maria. Right,
Maleva.
Maleva.
Played by
the actor's name.
Played by Maria, right.
Played by Maria. And he is going to go find her so that he'll see if he can become alive again. Yeah, man, I did not make great notes.
Well,
it is a shame that the internet is refusing to load the movie, but it will load the notes.
Well, she did. She does know more about werewolfism than anybody. She's like, she knows.
But she's
about
basically like,
marks
I
and
cannot
everything.
help you.
Right.
She literally says, I cannot help you. And so he's like, well, okay, so let's go on a journey by wagon to see who can help. Which is Dr. Ludwig Frankenstein. They're going to the town of Visseria to find him. Unfortunately, there's a very rude innkeeper who he is like, he's dead. His castle's in ruins. We don't like him. We've been plagued by the monster.
You do see the guy's daughter there. She's working as like a waitress in the same place that Larry goes in, and they kick him out.
They don't make enough screenshots either.
No, they kicked him out, and later the innkeeper's daughter becomes a victim, and you get I think there's a picture or part of the footage where this innkeeper restaurant owner guy is walking through the town carrying his daughter, and I'm like, that feels like a mirror image of what happened in the original Frankenstein, where you had the guy who's carrying little Maria, the girl who got thrown into the into the river.
Oh yeah, they like assemble a whole mob in this movie, as well as they assemble their own like detective team to be like, you know,
they don't. They're
we don't
ready to
believe
go.
who on earth Larry is.
They are like
so we're
always,
going to see the tomb to see if he's dead.
They're always 5 seconds from pitchfork. I mean, they've got their pitchfork ready, torch ready. They're just like
dead daughter ready.
Yeah, they're like, let's go. They just wanna riot. That's they're ready to go at any moment in time.
Yeah, and then believe the Wolfman like just falls in a ravine, I guess, and that's how he turns out to find the monster.
He falls into frozen. I thought it was like glacier ice. I mean, they're always saying glacier ice.
You talked about the original dialogue. You said that it was like I went into the ice house, and now it's got frozen here, I guess. And then it's like, well, how did it end up entirely underground though?
Who knows? They had to have Frankenstein's monster frozen.
It's awfully convenient that he finds the monster this way though, especially since he's been frozen in literally anything, like mud, ruins, ice. That's the classic move, is to like just put him in
He's
something.
always encased in carbonite or something like that.
So basically he assumes that like, oh, you're the monster everyone's talking about, therefore your creator must have been around here somewhere in a lab, and he must have a diary that tells him what he wants to know about the secrets of life because you were dead, which would have been made more clear like by the dialogue, but I feel like there was
the cut dialogue would have made it would have shed
he's
more
relying
light.
entirely on information in the final cut, entirely on information from the people there, not even like prior experience, not even like not a prior experience. He doesn't talk with the monster.
Right.
Instead, he's like, "Oh, I assume that you're the guy who knows about immortality and death. So, your creator must know about that too. So let's go find him."
Well, he's not wrong. He knows a lot about life and death, so he's not entirely incorrect.
As I said, they couldn't find anything. However, they find a picture of Elsa Frankenstein, and so they're like, "She is our lead. We must go find her." Even though there was not any like surname on the picture, it was just dash Elsa, I believe, or like your friend or your daughter Elsa or something like that.
Yeah, and she's not even mentioned, as the. I think there was a daughter somewhere, but wasn't it played by Evelyn Ankers or something? I don't know. Who knows? That could have been. This could be Evelyn Ankers' daughter. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah. I will say, after this is where they go into like this festival, where it's like this place is very like Scandinavian.
Talbot. Well, wait. Talbot goes and meets Elsa, and he says, "Oh, I'm Mr. Taylor. I'm very interested in buying, your old castle or something, buying your land or something."
Yeah, and she's like, "I can't help you either."
Well, he gets with her alone, and he says, yeah, psych, I'm not really trying to buy your land. I'm very interested in your father's work." And so she's like, "I can't." Yeah, then she says, "I can't help you." The mayor is played by Lionel Atwill, is like, "Well, there's the Festival of New Wine. Everybody's going to be there. It's going to be great. We've got a polka band who's got a whole song they wrote that they want us to hear."
Very like Scandinavian, Polish.
It's very German,
Polski, whatever they call them.
Bavarian, right?
Yeah, it's very that part where they wear like the weird clothes and sing the la 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 la.
Yes, Faro Lee.
Yeah.
Some people like this song.
His singing is so jolly that Larry Talbot is just like, no happiness, stop.
He's talking about living forever. He's like, live forever happily, and he's like, stop it, stop saying that.
But yeah, Frankenstein's monster hops in, and this does not have any reasoning to it in the final cut. Although this would have been that he was like betraying him. He was like, "Oh, you found the diary already because you didn't contact me."
Dr. Mannering shows up too for the first time.
This is Dr. Mannering finally pops up and he's like, "Yo, okay, so I know what's up."
I've been tracking you since Wales all the way here to this area. After Larry and the monster have gotten out to safety, they're gonna help the villagers kill the monster. Elsa's like, we got to get rid of my father's work. It's pure evil. But they eventually track Larry down to the ruins.
Or they eventually like go to the ruins. But apparently, the notes were inside a secret passage all along.
Yes, I think Larry and the monster totally missed it. It was like inside a nook and then up in the ceiling of the nook. Right.
So they're just like, oh, here it is. How easy is that? Very secret. I mean, they literally could have like been like, do you know where the diary is? Oh, yes, I do. It's in a little nook. Bring me to it. Not, I can't help you, because you probably could if you explained yourself a little better.
Right, so the Baroness gives the notes to...
I'm interested in your father's work. Okay, where is it? Oh, I know.
She gives the notes to Larry, and he's...
Solved everything.
And he's like, I want the energy from my body to be siphoned away. And transfer, and of course, Mannering is like, oh, we can transfer it to the monster. But they're like, oh, we're going to drain both of you of life. Which I think that's just called murder, isn't it?
He does see him... or want to see him at full power, and that compels him to go like, ooh, what if I do the thing I was gonna say I was gonna do? Which, when you think about it, if the plan was originally to do that, then that's just following the original plan.
Yeah, the villagers from previously, their second, while this is all happening, their secondary plan is to destroy Frankenstein's castle. By strapping dynamite to the dam. I mean, Lionel Atwill is the mayor is there, and
yeah, they're just like, let's get rid of the whole thing. If it hits the town, then oh well, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think they ever show the aftermath with it hitting the town.
Yeah, I don't know how far away it is from the town though.
It's I don't know. They may be okay.
Like, is it, like, out of the way? Is it, like, facing a different direction?
I think it's out of the way.
Does the river run through the town sort of thing? Or is it, like, parallel?
I don't think it does. I think it runs outside town.
Yeah, maybe. But, they do destroy it all while, the monster has been powered up. And so, but the full moon also powers up as well. Which is, 3 full moons. 3 full moons in a row.
Yeah,
3 full moons in a row
within a very short time span. I didn't buy.
Like, isn't there supposed to be like 1 full moon a month because there's like 1 new moon a month?
Yes, and I think some of that is just so they can the directors of movies can just have the werewolf around for a lot longer. That's my theory.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Elsa was trying to stop the machines, so Larry's life was not fully transferred either, so that they could both begin fighting while they blow up the dam. And I believe they'd really just die here after this.
You think. But as we both know, there's...
And Elsa and Mannering escape.
There's House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula coming up. So we know they both live. However they both live, they live. Somehow Palpatine survived.
And spoilers, but that was like just one of the... you could tell that this movie was, like, written quite unwisely when they pull that in Rise of Skywalker.
Yes.
Somehow Palpatine returned. Oh, no.
Yeah, I
just feel like all the camp scenes in that movie were not that great. No. Oh, speaking of camp, how campy was this movie?
Not very. I thought it... Look, this movie is this movie great? No, I think that the Universal monster movie, franchise is it reached its peak and it's petering out. It's kind of angling downwards.
Yeah, I've actually looked up the word campy and I realized it literally just means exaggerated.
Yeah.
Like being a low budget movie doesn't necessarily mean it's campy. Campiness just generally generates from because it's low budget, it's really stupid, like Sharknado.
I would say campy would be like Batman, the old 1966 Batman. Yep.
Yeah, because it's like stupid and it just exaggerated theater kid movie.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what they say. Theater kids are campy, like a campy actor.
Yes. So
it's just one that's like off the wall crazy, like
over the top, exaggerated, situations, exaggerated performances.
Dr. Eggman from Sonic.
Jim Carrey is campy.
Jim Carrey is campy, just because he's or like Adam Sandler sometimes. Just get Billy Madison being crazy.
Okay, I'll buy that.
Could say like campy actors because they're just so exaggerated in those movies.
So we will have to wait a couple movies before we see some of the Monster Mash movies, but we do have some other Universal monster movies coming up. Somebody we haven't seen for a while, and if we're lucky, we won't see again, is The Invisible Man.
He's gonna have his revenge.
Yes.
Which honestly, like, Dracula's been off the table. Mummy's been off the table, like, since Tomb.
Oh, we are going to get some more.
It might get better, or not like better, but like they might do more different things with it.
Oh, we'll see.
But like, Tomb was definitely dead in the water. Dracula's daughter and like son of Dracula to an extent were also dead in the water.
Yeah.
And then Invisible Man, however, they just couldn't really do much. Like the first movie, great. Second movie, a little bit less, but they've got some stuff there. They got cool effects. Third movie, it was a spin-off, so it's not really like a real movie.
I wouldn't consider that part of the series.
And then this one is just like...
Revenge is more a sequel than anything else, than any of the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm wondering what they do with that, because it's like...
I think the effects are going to be good, and...
is it going to be the original Invisible Man's revenge?
I don't think it's the original guy's revenge. I think they're going to connect the formula somehow to the original guy. That's what I think.
Yeah, but I think as these movies have had more like troubled productions, a lot more like simpler plots that are like, okay, but we're being thrown from thing to thing, thing to thing, and as they went from A movie budgets to B movie budgets for the Universal monster movies, I believe. We might have discussed that, but I don't think we did that much. Yeah, they went...
The budgets have been...
They got demoted to B movies.
They're going lower and lower, yeah. They only would get a decent budget if the previous one made decent money.
Yeah, as they were going on, they were more into, like, westerns. Maybe, like, action, suspense, drama. Generally does well.
We're getting the tail end of the
film noir
of the World War II movies. World War II
movies. Yeah, they'd probably be into lots of film noir.
Yeah,
lots of film noir.
Film noir, yes, but they had to kind of change it a little bit after the 40s. You remember movies like Key Largo and stuff like that. That noir aspect they had to kind of change up a little bit because it didn't quite fit the post-war world.
Yeah, this would be like I believe Orson Welles was doing stuff in the 40s, right?
He was, yeah, like The Stranger, yeah.
And stuff like that would be coming out a couple years after this.
Yep.
What else would be going on? Well, of course, comedy movies. Those were nice and big. Comedies, musicals, lighthearted stuff like that.
Yeah,
as we'll get into Abbott and Costello making a foothold.
Yes, we will. We're doing a couple,
I believe they definitely got established in the movie before the horror Universal stuff.
Yes,
but I don't know.
They did a good little handful of movies.
So I believe they got started about now. And this is sort of like where they're sort of going like horror's not in as much as comedy. Or
they mushed them together. Noir. They put them together because horror and comedy kind of do work together a little bit because you're scared and then you got the release of tension and you kind of laugh at yourself.
But like cowboys and Indians, you don't. There's not much overlap with like cowboys and Indians type stuff.
No,
they're just popping all those cowboys and Indians type thing.
Not at all. So, there we go. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, 1943.
We've gotten quite far in our discussion. I want to say that, there's a lot of good discussions with this movie, which is why I was excited for doing this, because it's like, for what do they do with Frankenstein every time is just momentous, especially with, like, the dialogue changes. What is this impact, especially for Frankenstein? and like how does the Wolfman get continued in this? How good is that?
Right.
I believe they just missed the mark overall because they could have had like more fighting between the both of them. Frankenstein's monster could have had like more of a role, you know. I feel like that there just wasn't a way to make that work with what they had then.
No,
they couldn't really make Bela Lugosi work.
I do think that as far as, you know, plot and things actually happening, there's a lot more plot in the Monster Mash movies, so we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But
yeah, I wish I could have skimmed through this movie, but it's taken a long time to load.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So,
it seems to have actually loaded a little bit. Okay, now it's not loading. Cool.
Thank you for joining us today.
Next episode will be the Invisible Man's Revenge.
Yes.
We will talk about the Invisible Man's revenging.
Have a good one.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah.
Last thing. Talk about that Burnout game. Burnout, it's racing.
Yeah.
Earlier.
Yeah.
Burnout Revenge. Play it. It's a lot of them are pretty good. The third one's great. Revenge is great. I believe that's like the last one they made.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Burnout and Burnout Revenge. Go download it.
I know they made like a Fast and Furious one.
Yeah.
That they rebranded to get rid of all of the licensing stuff.
All the lore, yeah.
I think it was like the Cruisin'. I think it was just called Cruisin'. Because it's part of like the cruise. They rebranded it after the Cruisin' series.
Yeah, Cruisin' the World, yeah.
Yeah, that was some good stuff back in the 90s.
Good,
anyway.
Good stuff.
Racing is a cool. It's always cool.
And with
crashing.
And with that,
let's crash.
Have a good night. Have a good day.
Have a good one. Thanks for listening to Cinematic Fantastic Podcast. Click here and here for some more excellent content. Hope you'll enjoy it. See you soon.